Hello explorers, thanks for joining us again and welcome back to another exciting and informative video on our YouTube channel. If you are joining us for the first time, we want to thank you for watching. In this episode, I will be looking into the reason why there is a strong anti-colonial case against France in the continent of Africa. I'm going to be using Niger as a clear example as to the reason why anti-French sentiment is still very high in the continent of Africa and the reason why France is taking clear note with regards to those activities. I will encourage you to watch this video to the end as I will be diving into some specifics here illustrating the case in Niger and why the Nigerian government had kicked out France in its territory. So without any more delay, let's just dive straight into it. Scenes of crowd justing and queuing at the Niamey Hamani International Airport in Niger are reminiscent of similar scenes that occurred in Kabul Hamid Karzai International Airport in Afghanistan 2 years ago. Only short-sighted policymakers did not see the Kabul storm coming until it engulfed the whole city in the 15th of August 2021 as Taliban fighters appeared on the street, effectively ending the American-led Western occupation of the country of Afghanistan. The main difference is that the Niamey episode on the 2nd of August happened suddenly amid confusion as to what was going on in Niamey. Gradually, it became clear that the presidential guard was taking over power while seizing elected President Mohamed Bazoum not long before the 63rd anniversary of independence from France on August the 3rd. Moving ahead, beyond the generals and the international news headlines, the current situation in Niger is another stark reminder of the rising feelings of France's presence in the continent of Africa and French colonial legacy in the region. Africans, particularly the youth, who make up the vast majority of the population across the continent of Africa, with the median age in Niger, for example, being 14.8 years, haven't had enough of France. Those young people, most of whom were born after independence, did not experience France's colonialization of their country, nor did they see what the French colonialists and their armies of settlers did in the continent of Africa. Rather, they were born and raised under the hidden French colonialism, starting from the language used in schools, if they actually were lucky or to have opportunity to go to school in that case. Moving ahead, any Nigerian or Malian for that matter will argue that France has always been here and never really departed its former African colonies. Despite such decades since such colonies became independent countries, they further argued about their standard of living in each of the West African countries that used to be French colonies in comparison to the situation in France itself. If you look at figures in making the case against colonialism and also its French legacy, they cite real hard numbers which are shamefully embarrassing. For example, the literacy rate in France is 99%, while in Niger it is 37.4% based on figures. Poverty, for example, is a way of life in Niger, with 95% of the population living on $5.2 per day, while in France, a person is considered poor when living on minimum of $1,000 per month, which is equivalent to month's wages in the country of Niger. Looking ahead, all former French colonies in Africa gained independence starting in the late 1950s and early 1960s, with Niger becoming independent in 1960. Yet, almost all of them have made very little progress in terms of their development, standard of living, education, and public health. This is despite being rich countries with abundant natural resources like gold, cobalt, oil, and uranium, especially in the case of Niger. Niger last year produced some 2,000 metric tons of uranium, most of which went to France, where 68% of the electricity is generated from the nuclear power plant. Moving ahead, While Paris is nicknamed the City of Light, Niamey is mostly dark, and less than 4 million people out of more than 27 million have lights in their homes in Niger. Many people have lived and died without even switching a lamp on in their homes in the country of Niger. Yet France's colonial aspect and presence in the region continue to grow. Many will counter-argue that wars, bad governance, military coups and corruption are also factors that hamper development across Africa, and Niger is no exception. This is a true argument. Nonetheless, it does not really explain the entire situation in Niger, which is 7th poorest country in the world based on figure. France is also not entirely innocent when it comes to military coups, as it is well documented that Paris supported juntas take over in many African countries when it suited its African policy. Back in the 1960s, French mercenaries led by the infamous Bob Donat, secretly supported by the French state, staged many coups in support of France-Afrique, aimed at maintaining the French sphere of influence in many African countries, colonies. If you are new to this channel, we encourage you to check some of our informative videos about the continent of Africa. We encourage you to support this channel because sometimes some of the videos that we produce on this channel do not get this actual views and likes as a result of the critical topics that we are looking at that affects the life of the African people and the growth and the trajectory of the African continent entirely. So we deep down into our research for you to motivate us and encourage us to continue to produce exciting research-based content. We encourage you to share our videos and to let us know that we are making a huge impact to your own understanding and to the geopolitics in the region. So let's jump back into the video. I want to thank you for that like. Moving ahead, if you consider France's presence in the continent and why anti-French sentiments are growing in the region, these are some of the reasons. If you look at France's exploitation of the continent of Africa, specifically West African countries, figures are clear. The problem with France's African policy even today is still the same as it was decades ago and deeply rooted in the colonial period. Since the time of General de Gaulle all the way to the current president Emmanuel Macron, the relationship between Paris and its former colonies has never been balanced and equalized, beneficial to both sides. It's been a win-win situation in the area of France, not the win-win situation from that of the other colonies. Culturally, French is the official language in many African countries, helping France exercise influence with its military power, maintaining control when needed. If you look at the colonial pact that France has locked in those countries there, and France have the right to intervene at any moment when its interest has been come under threat. However, if you look at the situation in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger and also Central African Republic, France was unable to intervene in those countries. This illustrates that the power that was once stronger in the region is beginning to weaken. As you look at other aspects, the colonial mentality in French African policy still dominates even today. Faced with the urgent evacuation of French citizens from Niger, President Emmanuel Macron spoke in a colonial tone, threatening immediately and also uncompromisingly retaliation against any threats to France or its interests in Niger, based on the high tension of the Nigeria coup at the time. This is not only a blatant threat but also condescending language that reminds many of the same language that prevailing during the days of direct French rule in the continent of Africa. Moving forward, yet the same Mr. Macron last March was talking of a new era in relations with the continent of Africa in Paris, in which Paris interference is well over. He went on to say that the age of France-Afrique is gone, before criticizing the mindset that have not changed much. If you look at the double standard of France in the continent of Africa, nobody is claiming that Niger will be better off under the new military ruler Abdourahamane Tchiani. and his colleagues. Historically, military takeovers have proven to be disastrous for Africa. Yet, French post-colonial policies in Africa are being blamed as well, as clearly shown in the public support for the military in the Niger. Niger in 2022 ranked 189 out of 191 countries in the United Nations Human Development Index, and next year it might even move even further down the drain if you look at different figures. Yet it is difficult to mask the fact that the French colonial era has everything to do with the shameful state of affairs in that country. France's presence has been that of exploitation in the continent of Africa. If you look at France's investment in the region, considering that is insignificant with regards to what the Chinese have done so far with regards to their investment and borrowing in those concessional loans in the region. However, if you look at France's interference in the continent of Africa, the French quasi-empire is crumbling, and what has happened in Niger recently is another example of France's retreating from the African scene. Paris must now accept this reality and live with it. France should also redefine its long-term objectives behind the international organizations of La Francophonie, the strong Paris support group that brings together countries based on use of French language. If it is not colonialism by extension, then Paris has to prove it. If you look at France's present with its approach of manipulation in the region, France has a lot of challenges because France has not come pretty clear with regards to investment cooperation, which should be a win-win situation for the continent of Africa. We want to thank you for watching. If you are new to our channel, we will encourage you to subscribe, share our videos to your different network. Keep the conversation going as we are looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Hopefully we've informed you with regards to the current challenges with regards to what France faces in the region and why there is a strong anti-colonial case against France, especially in the country of Niger. We are looking forward to meeting you in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.